Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So today we're going to talk about number 24 in Charlie Munger's Psychology of Human Misjudgment series, going through all of these cognitive biases. Today is actually the last one, because in the next video we're going to talk about the Lollapalooza tendency, which isn't a specific bias. It's more when multiple biases are acting together, what can happen. So let's get into today, 24 reason-respecting tendency. So first I'm going to read out of Poor Charlie's Almanack what Charlie Munger has to say on this topic. We're going to jump into a blog post going a little bit deeper on reason-respecting tendency, and then we're going to ask our favorite AI, ChatGPT-4, a little bit about this tendency as well. So, from Poor Charlie's Almanack, there is in man, particularly one in an advanced culture, a natural love of accurate cognition and a joy in its exercise. This accounts for the widespread popularity of crossword puzzles, other puzzles, and bridge and chess columns, as well as all games requiring mental skill. This tendency has an obvious implication. It makes man especially prone to learn well when a would-be teacher gives correct reasons for what is taught, instead of simply laying out the desired belief ex cathedra with no reasons given. Few practices, therefore, are wiser than not only thinking through reasons before giving orders, but also communicating these reasons to the recipient of the order. No one knew this better than Karl Braun, who designed oil refineries with spectacular skill and integrity. He had a very simple rule, one of many in his large Teutonic company. You had to tell who was to do what, where, when, and why. And if you wrote a communication leaving out your explanation of why the addressee was to do what was ordered, Braun was likely to fire you, because Braun well knew that ideas got through best when reasons for the ideas were meticulously laid out. In general, learning is most easily assimilated and used when, lifelong, people consistently hang their experience, actual and vicarious, on a latticework of theory, answering the question, why? Indeed, the question why is a sort of Rosetta Stone, opening up the major potentiality of mental life. Unfortunately, reason-respecting tendency is so strong that even a person's giving of meaningless or incorrect reasons will increase compliance with his orders and requests. This has been demonstrated in psychology experiments wherein compliance practitioners successfully jump to the head of the lines in front of copying machines by explaining their reason. I have to make some copies. This sort of unfortunate byproduct of reason-respecting tendency is a conditioned reflex based on a widespread appreciation of the importance of reasons. And naturally, the practice of laying out various claptrap reasons is much used by commercial and cult compliance practitioners to help them get what they don't deserve. Okay, so that's what Charlie Munger has to say. We're going to jump into this blog post by Safal on reason-respecting tendency. Next time, when you approach an ATM machine and find a queue in front of it, try this hack. Tell the person in front of the queue, "Excuse me, may I go before you because I have to withdraw money?" I am sure you've tried this. You haven't tried this before. Neither have I. It sounds ridiculous on the face of it. Why would they let you go ahead unless you have a genuine reason? Obviously, everyone in line is there to withdraw money. But there might be some merit to the above idea, because in the 1970s, Harvard psychologist Ellen Langer conducted a similar experiment. She went into a library where there was a long waiting line in front of the photocopier and approached the first person in the queue and asked, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine?" That would probably infuriate a lot of people because everybody was there to make copies. Naturally, most people refused to oblige to Langer's request. In the second part of the experiment, she gave a reason while making a request. "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I use the Xerox machine because I'm in a rush?" This time, most people gave in to her request and allowed her to go ahead. This is reasonable because if people are in a hurry, you would often let them cut into the front of the queue. But then came the interesting twist in the experiment. In the final part, she tried another approach, this time saying, "Excuse me, I have 5 pages. May I go before you because I have to make some copies?" Right? So the "because" is there and then a nonsense statement, right? Everybody's there to make copies. Surprisingly, the result in this approach was amazing. She was allowed to pass to the front of the queue in almost all cases. So it turns out when people justify their behavior, they face less resistance. Our need for making sense makes us believe even nonsense, right? Click, were. We hear because, we hear a reason, and we don't even really process it or pay attention to it. We just kind of let it go. Okay, you have a reason? Fine. So for most people, it seems to matter very little if the excuse is good or not. They aren't really looking for a reason, just an answer, no matter how unreasonable the answer is. So it's a little example. Let's take a look at Chat GPT-4. I asked it define reason-respecting tendency, provide ways that it can mislead, and offer antidotes for how to avoid being misled. Reason-respecting tendency refers to the inclination people have to be more accepting of information, arguments, or beliefs that appear to be logical, well-reasoned, or supported by evidence. While this tendency is generally beneficial for critical thinking and decision-making, it can also be misleading in certain situations. Here are some ways reason-respecting tendency can mislead. Number 1, confirmation bias. People may favor information that confirms their pre-existing beliefs, leading them to accept seemingly logical arguments without questioning their validity. Number 2, fallacious reasoning. A well-constructed argument might appear logical but contain fallacies or errors in reasoning, leading to incorrect conclusions. Misleading evidence. Number 3, people might be swayed by evidence that appears strong but is taken out of context or is otherwise unreliable. So I've been watching a number of TED Talks recently, and it seems like in every TED Talk, they start a claim by saying, studies show, or data suggests, right? It's like, well, what studies? What data? Okay? Is this data or studies that you've cherry-picked to support what you believe to be true? But it doesn't matter, right? People are kind of hardwired. If you have a reason, oh, this person looked into it, right? Oh, there's data that supports this. That's often enough for people, but it probably shouldn't be. Number 4, overemphasis on expertise. Individuals may accept an argument as valid simply because it comes from a perceived expert or authority, without critically examining the reasoning behind it. I mean, it's pretty obvious why people are so excited when they get a PhD, right, to put those letters after their name. If they're speaking on something, even if it's totally unrelated to what they got the PhD in, people are much more likely to think they're a credible source, to believe them, right? It can really lead people astray. Number 5, groupthink. The desire for group consensus can lead people to accept arguments that seem rational, even if they harbor doubts or reservations. So this desire for group consensus can kind of take the lead on, really getting down to, does the reasoning make sense? So antidotes to avoid being misled. Number 1, engage in active skepticism. Question the assumptions, evidence, and reasoning behind any argument or information presented to you, even if it initially appears reasonable, right? Battle test it. Number 2, seek diverse perspectives. Consult multiple sources and viewpoints to gain a more comprehensive understanding and to counterbalance potential biases, right? Obviously, we are susceptible to a ton of biases. This is number 24 in this series, okay? So we've got to counterbalance those somehow. Number 3, recognize and scrutinize fallacies. Familiarize yourself with common logical fallacies and cognitive biases. We can all pat ourselves on the back for that one. To better identify when they are present in arguments. Number 4, evaluate evidence. Assess the quality, relevance, and context of the evidence provided, and be wary of cherry-picked or anecdotal data. And we already talked about that. Number 5, cultivate intellectual humility. Recognize the limits of your own knowledge, which is vast, right? For me, for you, for everyone. And be open to changing your beliefs based on new information or more convincing arguments. I think of Charlie's expression, a year that goes by where I haven't blown up, destroyed one of my closely held beliefs is a year wasted, okay? Be willing to destroy those closely held beliefs. It means you're taking in new information, right? You're constantly seeking the other side in what you believe to be true, which is an incredibly valuable exercise. So that's it, guys, today on Reason Respecting Tendency. Thanks for watching, and we've got the last one coming up, the Lollapalooza tendency. So stay tuned for that one. See you all in the next video. Take care.